Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Backus Pro Gaming Series 2017 Summer Split. Drive your energy. We'll be your shoutcasters for the second game. I am Atlas. With me is Arctic, and we just finished that first game for JSK versus Infuse, and wow, it was actually very telling of the growth of both of these teams.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been talking about the previous weekend on how both teams kind of need to step up, and I gotta say, they've been living up to expectations, although this is a very tricky situation for JSK Esports because they do not want to go 0.
Of course, that is just the first game. We'll be getting into our second game to finish off this first match. We'll have 2 more matches after this as we look into our schedule. First match, of course, JSK versus Infuse. Infuse took away the first win, while in the next matches for today, we'll be having Acclaim Empire X versus Asian Arena, and to close it off is going to be TNC versus Team Manila Eagles. So, of course, looking at that, looking at our standings, rather, it's going to be very interesting because Infuse got a very good lead earlier. Now they have 1 win in this 2-game series, and JSK a little bit more desperate at this point because they have completed now almost an equal amount of games compared to Infuse at this point. So it's definitely a lot more bearing for Infuse to get another win because it will pull them a lot closer above TNC and actually tying Acclaim Empire X for now if they get another win.
So yeah, there we go. And I'm really interested in seeing how these matches, again, this is very crucial because we're already nearing the end. But yeah, speaking of the end, of course, we still have our share and win currently ongoing. Of course, there will be a code that will be appearing per matchup.
Yeah, there was a hashtag.
Yes.
So just share the stream link or the FB stream link with your friends in your timeline. Share it publicly. The hashtag plus the link is going to be gaming.youtube.com/phgarena/live. Or you can also share the FB stream link, FB Live, and you will get a chance to win a mystery gift. Of course, you have to share it publicly. And we're also having our PGS Digital Fan Art Contest as we near Rampage.
Yeah, there we go. So, of course, all you have to do is create a digital artwork. So, not the traditional, it has to be digital, which consists of 1 player per team. So, we have a total of 8 teams. So, just choose your favorite player per team. And then, of course, for more information, just check out esports.garena.com/PGS and look for the article for more details.
It's very convenient as well because you will have some references because the players have photos there.
Yeah.
So, it's also going to be very convenient. You will get a chance to win like a really substantial prize if you win that. So, just really pull out your entire artistic spirit and really your esports spirit as well, because we're going to be looking at our teams as we near Rampage. Of course, we're still going to be waiting for the drafting phase for the second game. Really, both of these teams have a little bit of time to prepare for the second game. As JSK said, all of their games have been 1-1 so far. Most of their games have been 1-1 so far. So this is a chance for them to actually get back and not get 0-2, because that's going to be huge against them if they get 0-2. And of course, as for Infuse, they want to get 2-0 so they can go for 6 points, tying with AEX. Of course, this AEX has another match today, so the points might change, but still, being above the midpoint is important for this team.
Yeah, and you know what? What I really find interesting about Infuse is technically they've had a lot of consecutive losses. So to actually be able to come in and actually get a win, it's very telling as to what mindset they have going into this game. They definitely don't want to lose out. And finally, we do see a win out of them after quite a number of matches passed.
Yeah, and that win, the patience, the endurance to just resist the aggressiveness coming from the other team, coming from JSK, definitely huge, and their growth as well. I also like to commend the growth of JSK. As you said, they are known to be very, very aggressive. You've said this in their games every time we cast. And it hasn't been working out for them before, but now they have tempered it a little bit. But they still need to improve. Definitely.
And looks like we will be heading into the action right now as we hit the pick and ban phase for Game 2 of our first match of the day between JSK Esports and Infuse Esports. So it looks like it is going to be the Elise and Rakan banned out from Infuse. A lot of respect right there. And
same bans
yeah,
from before.
pretty much. And then Zach as well.
Okay, now they're taking away the Zach. Because it is a contested first pick. Infuse, they were the blue team in the previous game. So now, since they are on red team, the threat of the Zach being first pick is a lot bigger. So they have to take that away. Shen will be another ban, same one from before. While JSK will be taking away Liars, Caitlyn. A-Style will not be on the Caitlyn for this game.
So we'll just have to see if this will be a continuing trend. Like you did mention, these are the same bans from earlier. So clearly both sides.
Almost the same, yeah.
Yeah. Almost the same, and it looks like the Kha'Zix is going to be banned out from here as well. So a lot of jungle-oriented picks up because we do know how dominant, of course, Spear is for JSK Esports.
That's true.
And because looking at JSK Esports for me, I always think these two strong players, both Spear and Fade. It's just that Spear is a much more bannable in a sense because not only have we seen a certain number of champions from him, but at the same time, the pool for junglers in itself is quite narrow. So
that's true.
Unless if you're going to compare it to Fade, who not only has quite a number of champions up the sleeve, but in general, mid lane picks, there's pretty much a lot.
And if he is going on that mid lane Galio, Fade will have a lot of impact. As we know, both of these mid laners, it seems like, yeah, Fade is a lot more focused on lane control, lane dominance, while Envy is more on roaming around. Of course, the pick manifested with Victor on Fade, as well as Envy on that Talia. But if Fade goes for the Galio, that's going to change up his playstyle a little bit and be a little bit more like Envy. So that might change the dynamic a lot. The bot lane, however, for JSK will probably be this Varus and Tom Kench in response again from Infused bot lane, picking up the Lulu and Ashe. Very, very strong combo.
Yeah, not to mention I'm really liking how JSK, they're really thinking this over as to what matchups they want to go for. And clearly with this Varus and Tom Kench, I'd say it's definitely a good choice against an Ashe and a Lulu. So there we go, we actually have a Gragas being hovered over for Infused. But yeah, again, this Galio pick, for so many matches that we've seen, a highly contested pick or ban. And for most of the games that we've seen thus far, it's mostly a very high win rate. So I'm actually interested in seeing how, if Infuse could actually kind of break that trend for Galio so far.
Yeah, because Galio mid lane in particular needs a lot of team communication. Of course, we saw that improve in JSK in last game, but of course they faltered around the late game. But if Fade can pull off a Galio mid, that shows a lot of growth for the individual player as well. Because we saw in that last game, Envy was all over the place. He was roaming in and out, getting those kills for the top lane and being able to pressure the other lanes, while Fade focused more on being a pushing power there in the mid lane with his laser. So that difference in the playstyle of these mid laners will have to change up if Fade goes for the mid lane Galio. For Infuse second ban phase, still lots of mid lane bans against Envy, and mid lane bans as well against Fade. Spear will also have his mid lane banned out. So the targets for the bans here definitely different for both of these teams.
Yeah, definitely. But nonetheless, both sides clearly showing that they are aware of what champions both players kind of excel in here. The Zed, so pretty much synonymous to Fade, I'd say, as well as the Nidalee, which Spear performed absolutely amazing on as of the previous weekend. But yeah, it looks like the Victor and the Jarvan the Fourth going to be potentially locked in by JSK Esports here.
It's going to be a potent combo with Whistle now going to be locked in on that Galio instead of Fade. So Fade will still be on his very comfortable Victor pick. I do think that mid lane Galio is a lot better than top lane Galio because your ult is like semi-global. So being there in the mid lane allows you to have impact on two lanes, while top lane is just your own lane and you don't really have a lot of value compared to mid lane Galio. But the combination of Spear and Whistle with the Jarvan, the Cataclysm in Dragon Strike into Cataclysm into an inescapable hero's entrance.
Yeah,
is definitely huge.
Yeah, and then looks like Infused Esports actually going to be taking the Rumble for themselves. Of course, early it was actually JSK that was running the Rumble, so it looks like Pandar is going to show Whistle just maybe that he could potentially excel on this champion. But like I have mentioned, I'm yet to see a team that could actually win against a Galio because of that huge impact.
They picked this magic damage top laner into a magic damage resistant champion. Anti-magic Galio is naturally anti-magic, so this matchup might be a little bit hard for Pandars, but of course he has his own form of sustained damage, own way of wave clearing, so Whistle might have his run for his money. So it's definitely something that they have to watch out for. Looking at the compositions as a whole, however, it seems like JSK has a really good wombo combo. Like they lock themselves in a Cataclysm plus the Chaos Storm and then the Hero's Entrance as well, while A-Style is just free hitting away. But Infuse seems to have very balanced as well. Lots of utility, the damage for the mid lane, very good mix of physical and magic, as well as disengage coming from the Gragas.
Yeah, and I mean, with the composition that JSK has, I'm actually interested in seeing as to whether or not they could actually pull off this type of composition where I feel that synergy is very essential, but we'll just have to check it out once we hit the Rift. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we are heading into Game 2 for our first matchup of the game. There we go. It's going to be, of course, JSK Esports and Infused Esports. So two esports teams. Of course, only one can come off dominant in this match. So we'll just have to see. Of course, let us know in the chat who you guys are rooting for. Is it going to be JSK win, or is it going to be hashtag INF win?
That is the case here, because JSK really wants to make this a 1-1. While Infuse, they cannot afford to lose any more games. Because as we near the end of the group stages before playoffs, you need to get as many points as you want. And if Infuse gets a 2-0 here, that's a huge boost. 3 points is a lot better than 1 point, obviously. That's like mathematics. 3 is greater than 1. But it's also the circumstance that, okay, we're nearing the playoffs. We need to get as many points as possible. And the pressure is definitely being felt here by all these teams. And the pressure not just, negatively, but also positively, because we've been seeing so much growth in both JSK and Infuse throughout the split.
And what's really interesting here is that if you're going to look at the two teams, they're kind of in different scenarios despite being at the bottom of the spectrum. For JSK Esports, what I find interesting is that they were actually in the top 4. They made playoffs last split. So it's interesting how despite having Fade, a veteran player, as a pretty good addition, I'd say, to the team, they're still somewhat fumbling as opposed to Infused Esports. So again, it's almost stereotypical in a sense where you'd expect the newer teams to struggle a bit. Although, I can't really say that as much because if you're going to compare it to the previous split, when you have teams, because JSK Esports was actually when they made playoffs, and TNC Pro Team didn't do so bad themselves last split. So it's interesting how it's very stereotypical this split wherein most of the newer teams are struggling.
Definitely, and while Infuse sitting comfortably near the midpoint, even though they are a new team into the PGS Summer Split, is definitely good for them. And the fact that they've been really working on their macro is definitely telling that they are indeed a PGS caliber team. And JSK as well, we've talked about their growth as well, and they have really good micro as well. But the macro is still getting there, but they are growing, and that's what counts. But looking at this right now, it seems like both of our junglers will be meeting around the top lane. Oh, that's going to be trouble for Spear. He has left health. Has to go for the Dragon Strike away. Oh, that's going to hurt. That is the Shock Blast, and Power Shock Blast has to flash over before XDXP can body slam him.
Oh man, that was very scary indeed. And with the flash down for Spear, that doesn't really leave him as many options as far as the fancy ganks that he could go for with this Jarv. And of course, if I were him in this case, maybe kind of wait out for that Cataclysm, because I feel like that slash will definitely hurt him as far as potential creativity with the ganks pre-level 6.
This really sets him back in the pathing a lot. Especially, I don't know why he decided to check for the jungle of XDXP. Because looking at the matchup naturally, Jarvan IV has terrible sustain in his first clear, while XDXP has natural sustain with his passive on that Gragas. So I don't know why he thought he could face up against XDXP by checking his jungle. Because naturally, XDXP would have more health, and the early game he has respectable burst and damage as well. And because you're pushing into the territory of the enemy, that means Envy is in more of a position to respond. So it's very questionable that he made the decision to path around that side against Infuse.
Yeah, definitely. That's a pretty big struggle for him. But looking at the top lane earlier, what I actually find even more interesting is that if you're going to look at, although Whistle was able to regenerate some level of mana because of that corrupting potion, but he's actually struggling right now.
Might go for some Blaze with a very good flash. Still gets knocked up, however, but gobbles up his AD carry. Gets saved with a tough skin in the top lane. Spear got the first blood for his top laner Whistle.
Oh man, and of course that is the beauty of having a Tahm Kench in the support role for that bot lane of JSK. When you think that things kind of spelled trouble for Astyler, all it took was just one Devar to save his AD carry. But yeah, looks like first blood gonna go to JSK.
Very good flash as well, because that flash was well before the body slam. He did get knocked up, but because of his positioning then, it wasn't enough for Infuse to actually follow through for a kill, and he was still able to devour his AD carry. Very good for JSK to have that confidence to survive in the bot lane while leaving Spear to get the first blood in the top lane. Let's look at the replay of what happened at top lane.
Yeah, there we go. So Sandra is actually fully committed, so Spear actually getting the knock-up onto Pandar. So almost actually very scary for Whistle as well there. But of course, good coordination. And not to mention the fact that that does kind of make up for the lack of flash coming from Spear earlier when he almost died to
Despite
XDXP.
the deficiency in the flash, seems like Spear is still pulling out a lot of pressure and really still looking for something against Envy and XDXP around his top side, but of course gets kind of scared away. And look at Sachi actually rotating here around the mid lane in case Spear wants to try something funny.
Ooh, Spear though, just kind of walking. I was
Revealing his position.
Yeah, I was actually expecting that maybe they'd kind of bait, since Fade would look like a prime target with limited mana on him right now. So
Seems like still gonna chill after that top lane gank, after that bot lane fight as well. Sachi still looking for something. The roam coming from the support, definitely great. Looking at this though, we're gonna see, because Envy and Sachi, they both have very, very high kill participation. That's because they always roam. So the thing here is that Sachi playing to his character, definitely always looking for something to help out Envy. Of course, he has to back off here.
oh man, so there we go. And okay, so looking at the pathing this far, but ooh, okay, I thought we were gonna see some action there for a bit, but yeah, looking at the pathing thus far, I'm actually liking how proactive Spear is, because with that flash deficiency, I was kind of expecting that maybe he'd kind of make up for it by perhaps power farming, reaching level 6 as soon as possible. So I like how he's really making things happen for this top lane. But yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, even if he has been ganking and pressuring, he has been also power farming. Look at his CS compared to Whistle, compared to XDX. Compared to Whistle, his own top laner, he has actually more CS than that Galio, and almost double the CS of XDXP. So even though he's been pressuring very well, after Jarvan's first clear, it actually becomes much faster. And now he has the Cataclysm. He has the tools to really gank effectively.
And especially with that flash up almost any minute now. Well, within the next 60 seconds actually. So this will definitely allow him much more space as to getting much more effective ganks and potentially securing kills, in which case.
After he burns a flash with the Demolition Standard Dragon Strike combo, go for the immediate Cataclysm and they cannot escape anymore. Envy cannot escape, Pandars cannot escape, Liar. None of these champions can actually escape from the Cataclysm, and even though XDXP has a body slam, it can just get blocked by Spear.
But you know what's interesting here is, despite that, I actually really like Jinx Esports in the sense that they have a pretty solid front line, and if all goes wrong, they do have that Comp Kench to devour a very vulnerable target. And of course, whether it be Fade or A-Style. That being said, I'm actually interested in seeing whether or not they'll have that. Because, like we mentioned, one of the things that JSK Esports excels at is individually, they're very talented, mechanically gifted players. But like we have seen, they kind of fumble when it comes to these team clashes, when we kind of need some level of coordination in order to make it work for them. So we'll just have to see whether
it has improved, though.
Yeah,
the thing is, it has improved a lot since we saw in the previous weeks. They are still getting there. And I think the culmination of their improvement in terms of their macro will come, one, in the wombo combo that might happen. Look at that! That's the wombo combo. But of course, Envy does have the flash. They do both burn both summoner spells onto Envy, so that's a lot of pressure that Jinx is putting out. But as I said, that's one of the tests of pressure that they can have, whether they have really improved in terms of the macro.
Man, I like how that Blasting Cone was used just right when the Galio went in. But yeah, I mean, overall, though, still, a good attempt, though, from JSK. I like how proactive they are.
Yeah, they're really proactive.
In comparison to most games. Although, if you're going to compare it to previous games, their proactivity is more of individual stunts as opposed to that proactive play, which was more of I'd say a group effort, because it involved actually having Whistle respond with the hero's entrance, trying to get that solid knock-up, layering of CC. Although it did exhaust the flash from Envy, but still, really refreshing JSK that I'm seeing here in comparison to most previous games that we've seen.
Yeah, definitely different. That's the first test of their team synergy. Can they pull off the wombo? The second test for this game specifically is if they can pull off the Morita Boy top 10.
There you go.
Because we've been seeing how the Abyssal Voyage can be used to really gank that bot lane very, very hard. And if Spear, if he can gap close with the Abyssal Voyage together with Blaze, then that means he has more tools to knock up once the gank actually starts. So that's the another true test of the synergy here for this bot lane.
Yeah, and the coordination at the same time, in the sense that if you're gonna look at how Morita Boy actually played the Tahm Kench, like most of, if not almost 100% of his Abyssal Voyages actually resulted to kills for Asian Arena. What I'm worried about here is that, like we mentioned, JSK definitely, without a doubt, has improved in terms of their teamwork, in terms of their macro, overall. But like they're still getting there in a sense, so there's still these errors like we have seen in Game 1, but ooh, Enchantress are actually flying.
Ooh, very close there.
Man, if that Enchanted Crystal Arrow actually flew, that actually would have been beautiful, followed up by an explosive cast with XP in the vicinity.
Yeah, the long range of that Enchanted Crystal Arrow would have been enough for XP to get a good explosive cast in. But of course, just dodging it just by a little bit there. A few pixels. He saw it coming, kind of teased it, and then he backed off.
Yeah,
Whistle still going for something. He does have the hero's entrance once again. So we might be seeing a dive with Spear, Fade, and Whistle here. But of course, the wards definitely there for Infuse. I like this. The defensive wards in their own jungle, because Spear might go for these invades, and Whistle might position himself around that area of the map to go for a hero's entrance.
And I gotta hand it to Whistle, because most of the games that I've seen from him thus far, he's a little bit more restrained to his lane. And so the fact that he's actually getting this roam on, looking for opportunities, or even dewarding for his team, dewarding defensive wards from Infuse Esports, again, so refreshing from JSK. If anything, a very different JSK that I've seen from, without a doubt, from the last split. It's just like you mentioned, with the fact that they're still getting there. What I'm worried about is with the last few weekends that we have of the group stage for the PGS, whether or not it's actually enough. Because still, if you're going to look at the standings, like we did mention, they do not want to get a 2-0 against, they don't want this to be a 2-0 for Infused Esports. That being said, because for Asian Arena as well, they still have so much space to actually increase their ranking to 7th or potentially 6th. So again, every single game counts.
Yeah, the pressure is there. Every point definitely puts you away from relegation and closer to playoffs, possibly. So it's definitely important for both of these teams to get these wins. And I really like how this game isn't a bloodbath just yet. JSK is still looking for aggressive rotations, aggressive ganks and pressure, but they're not going too overconfident. The problem is, can they sustain this kind of patience until late game? Because we saw them not do that last game. So they have to learn from that experience.
Definitely.
Especially for Infernal Drake.
There you go, especially with Vision there. So Infuse Esports fully very much well aware that they're taking this, so we might actually see a fight.
To get this fast. Do get it. I like this, that they really did that very quickly. It's the Infernal Drake, which is the squishiest Drake out of all the 4 elemental Drakes. So I really like how they knew they have enough damage to take that out very, very quickly.
And not to mention that all 4 of them just went for it right away. You know, had that been a scenario wherein you kind of go back to these solo queue moments when you'd call for Garena, but your teammates wouldn't arrive like a few seconds later. So again, this coordination from JSK Esports really working for them this
Another arrow, not going to hit anyone.
And Liar just not getting a break. But again, if those, it's kind of high risk-ish, because so long range, but once that hits, especially with XP in the vicinity, it would have really worked so well for Infuse. But then again, nothing happening thus far, so we'll just have to see later on during the mid-game how this transitions.
Yeah, Fade still really pushing out that lane. He is behind 2 waves against Envy, but surviving that. And since he has a lot of wave clear as well, Envy's also pressured to not leave lane. He hasn't been roaming as much as he usually does. Very uncharacteristic of Envy to really just stay in this lane, because he needs to match the pressure that Fate puts on that turret. Look at his turret, already below half health. If he leaves for a roam, that might be first turret for JSK.
I think, like, if you're going to look at it as well, considering that Veda is running a Victor, the wave clear is a little bit more solid for him, I'd say, in comparison to a Jace. So, there we go. So, blue going to Fade. But yeah.
He has blue now, so that is going to be potentially infinite wave clear as long as he doesn't get ganked. So
definitely,
Envy really needs to match that kind of pressure he puts out.
I gotta say though, I like the restraint coming from Fade in a way, because considering how easily gankable a Victor is, I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen as many ganks from XDXP in a way.
I
Because
think
of
they're
the
waiting too long to get a really good enchanted crystal arrow. But I think there's been a lot of instances where XXP could get a good gank on the Fade without Spear interfering.
Exactly.
But still, you know, the fact that JSK is surviving in this early game in this kind of composition, they're still ramping up their gold. They're still very even in terms of the CS, which means that once the fight actually breaks out, it might actually be JSK ahead in this 5v5.
Sachi actually rotating here to the top lane, and with Spear over there, we might actually see something very bloody.
This might be the action we've been looking for, but look at that. Blaze with a Tahm Kench Abyssal Voyage. This will be a 3v3. Actually, Whistle going for the top lane, and Enchanted Crystal Arrow might hit someone. That's going to be a long stun from across the map. Will it hit anyone? It actually hits onto A-Style. That might be the signal for Infuse to go in, but nope, doesn't go in.
Man,
That's still a very spot-on arrow, but not enough to actually be impactful. Liar might be in trouble here. He's not dealing any damage onto Whistle. He can kite him out, however. Look at that, actually, and the Flash actually dodged away from the Winds of War. This is a huge damage taken away from Whistle, and I think this is the AD carry winning that fight by a hair.
yeah,
Good Flash.
Definitely. Good on Liar. Good prediction there, actually. But yeah, I mean, XDXP active in the vicinity to get
Yes,
things
Flash.
going.
Does he want to go for it? Just goes for the Dwarf in the mid lane, a little bit of pressure. So that is 1-1 so far in terms of the kill score.
Actually, it's interesting watching Infuse Esports right now because I'm all about restraint in a way, especially if you want to wait for optimal timings, and especially if you don't want to really throw, especially in these type of crucial situations. But that being said, the patience that I'm seeing, it's somewhat too much, I'd say, because like you mentioned, there's been so many opportunities where an XDXP could have gone again, even without the Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Liar, and it doesn't even necessarily have to translate to kills. Like I mentioned, even the smallest exhaustion of summoner spells from JSK Esports would leave them all the more vulnerable, and that's pressure in itself. So the fact that that hasn't really been happening as much, it's interesting for me.
They really do not want to throw anything away. They don't want to gamble too much, but I think the Enchanted Crystal Arrow that hit top lane, that was a long stun. That was from across the map. They would have been able to get something out of that, because right now A-Style has both summer spells. If they went in on that, even if they didn't 100% commit, if they burnt A-Style summer spells, it would have been worth it. Here comes, gonna be a fight. Pandar's gonna try and torch A-Style and Blaze. Might have some roast catfish for tonight, but that's gonna be 4 members backing away. Another Enchanted Crystal Arrow does not hit A-Style.
Man, they've really been forcing these risky long-range Enchanted Crystal
And
Arrows.
because of that, this actually, the pressure in the top lane allows Envy to get that mid lane turret. Actually get a little bit of damage onto that secondary turret as well.
Yeah, I mean, across the map, Infuse Esports really working, and JSK actually going a bit more responsive here. Whistle trying to def this, but again, what's a Galio? I mean, sure, Galio in himself dishes quite the damage, but then again, since this is a top lane Galio, it's more of a tanky role, so it doesn't really have the same damage output, let's say, in comparison to mid lane
Blaze
Galio.
might go for something here. Spear going for the Cataclysm. No follow-up available, and Infuse is around the corner, so he has to back off from that.
Man, oh man.
That's going to be the third Abyssal Voyage actually that we've seen that hasn't resulted in anything big for JSK.
Definitely.
And even though Blaze, we know him to be a roaming support. He even has the Moby boots right now, but he hasn't been pulling out a lot of value for this team. Same with Sashi, and that's because the game is kind of calm right now, going for a lot of these aggressive plays, but a lot of them with restraint.
So much restraint, so much safety that, I mean, we're heading into 20 minutes into the game.
2 kills.
I don't think I've seen a PGS game that's been this silent for the first 20 minutes.
They are going for these plays onto the Drake. They know which objectives to go for. This is a very squishy Drake, so it can go to either team if they do it quickly. They are dancing around the fire here.
Oh man.
Might go for a fight. Blaze is taking a lot of damage. A Shock Blast is going to put A-Style at half health, but it is going to reset the dragon. Still going for it.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually interesting if this eventually breaks out into a full anti-fight, but of course, Fertile Drake will be regenerating a bit more.
Still going for it. Envy pulls it back to their side now, and actually just goes for the reset. Cannot risk too much. with Jenski's wave pushing down the bot lane turret. Has to clear his mid lane turret as well, because look at the health of that turret, below half. Going to be very dangerous if it falls down.
Man, the restraint from both sides, it's almost driving me crazy, to be honest. I mean, the lack of action within the first 20 minutes, because if anything, for most of the games that we've had this split, the latest that you'd actually see action would probably be like 12, 13 minutes. But the fact that this has gone on to 20 and then both sides kind of restraining themselves.
Doing the dragon dance right here now with Infernal Drake, and looking at how quickly it falls here. Oh, he's stunned. He cannot go for the steal. Now it's going to be the teleport coming from Pandars as well as Whistle, going for the hero's entrance, going for the front line of his team. But I think Infuse is just going to go for the disengage, escaping Jenski's clutches and still running away with that Infernal Drake.
And but of course, with that one kill, this actually allows JSK Esports the numbers game 5v4. But looks like Sachi gonna be going for the recall, cancels that though, as they try to force the
Whistle trying to go for something. Spear has a Cataclysm. That's gonna be Whistle in the middle of everyone. Can he go for the 3-man taunt? Cataclysm goes in as well. Envy tries to go for the dive. This is in between two turrets. It seems like Infuse is taking a lot of damage, but so is Jenski. Seems like it will be a 2-for-2 in the end. But with the turret almost being taken down, Jenski has to back off.
I think there was somewhat of a lack of coordination there coming from Jenski. I'm not sure. Some were probably going for that turret. Others were already committing to the fight. And the problem, plus the problem that they weren't even able to take down that turret, even though with the slither of health, man.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a lack of coordination for that fight. Let's break that down a little bit more.
Yeah, there we go. Whistle actually, I'd say a great initiate, because look at the taunts. A lot of members of the team
where's
actually connected. But exactly, yes. The lack of follow-up damage, and technically the carries were actually being careful there at the same time, because if they fully committed, the tower, they really had, not only did they have to kind of figure out how to work around that fight, they also needed to juggle the damage coming from two turrets correctly. So it was very messy for Jenski there.
Spear was already taking a lot of aggro from the mid lane turret. I think A-Style could have afforded to position himself in a way that he could actually get some free hits during that fight.
Definitely. And as a result, that actually would have resulted to more kills in favor of Jenski right there.
Yeah, if I was Jenski, however, I wouldn't go for the full 2-tower dive. I'd just go for scare them away with the presence of Whistle and then have 3 or 4 members on the turret. It would have been another option, but instead they went for the dive. They do trade 2-for-2, but this is going to be A-Style being roasted after being frozen by that enchanted crystal arrow. That's cooking 101 coming from Infuse Esports.
Yeah, explosive cask was actually used by XTXT there, and although he didn't get an Nexus, still didn't really deter them from getting that kill.
A little bit of a wasted resource from XTXP, but this does put them in a position to build a pretty substantial wave here. Going for this 5 out of 6 wave in the top lane. This will be compounded by the next wave, which I believe is a cannon wave. And look at how fast they push this with 2 members and the red buff. Sachi going to help them out as well. Getting them another turret, their second one for this game, making the gold lead 2,000 at 23 minutes.
Man, Jenski definitely has their work cut out for them. And like we've mentioned, the big question here is whether or not the level of team play, the level of coordination, is it fully there to work this composition here. And technically, it's not even just about layering the CCs. It's even right down to who they're prioritizing.
Here, Blaze getting caught out, has to pop the thick skin. Fade going for something here. He actually gets a kill onto Sachi. Now Spear in a position to go for something, but has to back off. No longer has any gap closing potential, but this might be the mid lane turret finally for Jenski.
There we go, JSK Esports. Finally, with a slither of health, you know, they should be able to easily take this down.
Pretty much equalizes the gold here. At most, the difference will be like 2 or 3 potions, and at this point, they don't want to buy potions.
Definitely.
Just a very small lead across the board for Infuse.
They
might go for the Rift Herald, though. Or rather, no, it's actually a Baron. I forgot. It's 24 minutes. The game has been slowed down so much that I thought it was still pre-20.
I don't blame you, man. It's been pretty silent on Summoner's Rift right now. And even though we have seen a bit of action, I wouldn't say it's been like full-on explosive to actually feel that we're in the mid-game right now.
But the fact that Jenski is able to restrain themselves from giving into the urge of diving 5 members into like 3 turrets, that's huge. And here they're waiting for something to happen, Infused. Maybe for them to get out of position, maybe for Envy to really... Okay, Envy does not go to face check. Actually, this puts Jenski's plans a little bit on the back burner.
Good on Envy right there, actually.
I think he was suspecting something. He's like, where's Jenski?
Yeah.
They might be here in the top lane. And actually, The ward actually helps him out to just seal the deal and prevent any further traps in that top lane brush.
Man. So yeah, well, going into this game right here, I'm actually interested in seeing if Jenksky could really work these 5v5s again. There has been that question as to not only just, well, I kind of think that the initiates are there, everything with everything said and done, but when it comes to those trickier situations where you actually have to determine priorities, whether or not, like we've seen earlier, whether you're going to go for a turret, you'll go for kills, that's something that was kind of still messy. So
and to be fair, a little note there in the mid lane fight, it's like minutes ago, but I think they banked on A-Style getting the turret before the dive. Rather, during the course of that dive, they take the turret fast, but it wasn't fast enough because, you know, Varus isn't really a super turret pusher compared to other AD carries. He does have a lot of wave clear, but that's when it comes to turret himself, compared to other AD carries, the damage is pretty low. So, still, very unfortunate for Jenksky. The coordination as well wasn't there super well. So coming into 26 minutes of the game, Gold still very, very even. This can swing into either side of the battle.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely all about the control here, I'd say. Who manages to pick off? Because, like, if you're going to look at the compositions that Jenksky has... Oh!
Okay, I think it's just going to be Blaze gobbling Spear up, preventing him from taking any more damage. This will be the Drake. And another Infernal, the third Infernal Drake of the game. Who will it go to? Who will get the third Infernal Drake for this game? Seems like Infuse is really in a position to do so. But Spear trying to go for something, but he's alone. But that might be the setup for everything. That is the Equalizer going down onto the floor. Whistle going to frontline for his team. He does have the flash, goes for the two-man taunt, takes down Sachi. Pandars is now the target. He's going to have the Zhonya's Hourglass, but Spear just easily takes him out along with A-Style. So that is going to be a 0 for 2, but Infernal Drake going for the Infuse.
Yeah, definitely. And we have seen Jenksky kind of banking on these... Well, they did get 2 kills, I'd say, in all fairness, but in the long run, as far as the benefits of a double Infernal Drake, that makes Infused Esports all the more painful. So, Jenksky, going into the next fights, they need to ensure that not only do they get the optimal CC to kind of deny the full damage that Infuse can exert, but at the same time, let's go ahead and check out this clash here real quick. So, great move there. Although Whistle not able to optimize the hero's entrance as much, but it does force Infused Esports to back away here. And at this point, it's just a matter of Jenksky Esports trying to get what they can out of this. And they did manage that 2 kills onto Pandars and onto Sachi. So, not bad for Jenksky, I'd say, but they'd have to watch out going into the long run because that is 2 Infernals.
Double Infernal. I mean, Jenksky will feel the heat once late game comes. And really, I think one of the key things to that fight being in favor of Jenksky was that XP was locked away from his team. At the end there, he was in the Tri-Brush, while the rest of his team was already running away like a sliver of health remained.
Ooh, good steal there from XTXP though, because Baron actually, another one of these objectives that technically both sides don't even want to give up at this point because
they
it's
have
been so
substantial
sound
sustained damage. Both of the AD carriers have Blade of the Ruined King. Baron at 29 minutes is a real threat for both of these teams that they do not want to give up.
Especially with the board so equal right now. Sure, just the gold actually in itself, it's very, very equal. Both sides, so kind of don't want to give this Baron because that Baron would be a game changer.
It
that
will
would
swing
really
in one team's favor. The gold is really close. Oh, look at that, the decisiveness coming from Spear, but is there follow-up? Indeed, it will come from A-Style to finish off the kill. Spear getting dangerously low after that one. Will they go for the Baron? Spear is very, very low. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I was kind of worried for Spear there a bit, but look, like A-Style was able to respond in time because if that was like, if it came in like 1 to 2 seconds later, that would have actually spelled a 1 for
disaster, 1 for 1, and because that was the jungler Spear dying compared to Indy, that would have given Baron priority to Infuse because they have their jungler.
Yeah, especially with XDXP actually already that Baron fit. So would have been very interesting indeed. But
looking at this, the gold is still very even, but the 1k that Jenksky has above Infuse, and the extra Infernal Drake that Infuse has over Jenksky, the gold is still super even. Like, at this point, I peg Infuse to be about 500 gold in stats ahead of Jenksky, so it's still very small.
Looks like Jenksky going for the small... Actually, again, the patience is very refreshing. I like how they're kind of contenting themselves with these small victories because most of the matches that we've seen from JSK thus far is they like to go for these go big or go home type
And then
of
they
plays.
always go home.
Exactly. So I like the restraint in a sense that, sure, they have them small victories and it seems very equal, but JSK is pretty much contenting themselves, slowly building up on this. So whether or not this will be a continuing factor for them in the game, I'm actually interested in seeing that, especially with such an explosive composition when you have champions such as the Galio, such as the Jarvan the Fourth.
Once another full-on 5v5 team fight happens, that will be the culmination of all these small leads that they've been building up. Still, it's super even. I cannot even give the advantage to one team or another. Their vision is pretty much equal, a little bit on JSK's side, because they do have Baron priority. They are blue team, so they have a little bit more freedom in warding around that Baron. But looking at it now, it seems like it's very, very even. Even the top laners there in the bot lane, they're just clearing each other's waves constantly, push and pull into trying to destroy each other's turrets and apply pressure to that bot lane.
And what I really like about JSK, again, this Tahm Kench, even though we haven't seen the Morita Boy type of plays wherein it was used much more
Aggressively?
exactly, resulting to kills. Basically, for Blaze in this case, what really makes this Tahm Kench all the more worth when you look at it from the perspective of versus... but... Okay, there we go.
Okay, so I don't think Spear would go for that. It is XD/XP. Tankiest member of the team is not worth ulting alone.
Yeah, but as I was saying, because if you're going to look at some games wherein a team uses Tahm Kench, the Tahm Kench sometimes has to go for a Quicksilver Sash because of the amount of CC that could actually prevent him
From rescuing?
Exactly, but if you're going to look at the composition of Infused Esports, the only form of heavy stun that they have is from Liar. And to a point, it's more of knockbacks with the Gragas and the Jace here, but looks like we might have
be a dive here in the bot lane. Panda is definitely in trouble. Both of them are actually burning their Zhonya's Hourglass, actually dodging the entirety of the damage of the Flame Spitter. But this might cost them a lot as Spear and Blaze have to run away. Of course, A-Style gets gobbled up by Blaze. No damage sustained, so it's a win onto JSK.
Definitely, right. I was actually expecting another clash right there, but looks like that won't be the case again. The restraint.
Oh, this might happen though. That's gonna be a fast Abyssal Voyage onto Envy. They might go for it, but A-Style is going melee form on that Varus. Cannot flash out, but I think Envy will be taken down by Spear here. Now XD/XP under duress. Gets the Wild Growth onto him, gets a slow, but I think Spear is still trying to go for it. But with Liar around the corner, they don't want to commit too much, especially with Fade all the way down there in the bot lane, pushing this tower.
Oh man, I love how JSK is kind of working this map across the board, and
Whistle's still going for it.
It's a good distraction.
Out.
Yeah, I
good
mean,
distraction.
Good distraction by Whistle.
Look at that, they're dancing around the Baron to let Fade get more push onto that bot lane. But it seems like they will have to stop there. Not want to cash in too much into that pressure.
Oh man, this is crazy. I'm not even sure I'm watching a JSK esports game here right now because this is so different from, so uncharacteristic, but in a good way for JSK esports. Again, the restraint and how they're capitalizing on these small victories, not to mention the mind games that they're playing across the board. It's really, really good, I gotta say. And if this keeps up, this might actually be the 1-1.
And the thing is that they deny the 2-0 for Infuse, and they get a little bit closer, away from relegations, and then getting more points into the summer split. And the maturity of this team and how quickly they grow, they've grown since last split, and then into this one, it's definitely impressive to see. And I'm really respecting JSK right now, as well as Infuse. But the growth from JSK is just huge.
I agree most strongly because if you're going to look at how short our group stage is right now, plus the fact that the pressure is monumental for these teams, fighting to not be the 8th spot to be auto-relegated. So this is impressive in the sense that
Whistle might be in trouble, gets Polymorph. Look at how much damage he's tanking right now. Barely even enough. With a Gargoyle Stone Plate as well. Equalizer gets down. Fade tries to still go for more damage. Actually takes down Sachi. And now Infuse is split apart. Now Envy and XD/XP are the ones that are being targeted. They have to run away. This might be the Baron given to JSK, but they're still going for it. Look at Whistle just tanking so much damage. Dodges a little bit as well with the Hero's Entrance. Now it's going to be Spear. Just as much actually goes in just for the insurance. It's just going to be the Abyssal Voyage to just completely lock away, and they go for the 0 for 3. Baron priority goes to JSK.
This is absolutely crazy. Again, this is the reason why you ban a Galio from any game, for any professional game for that matter, because of the heavy just the hero's entrance in itself, plus how tanky he is. Whistle just being a meat shield for JSK Esports. And
might go for a steal. XCXP definitely has the potential to do so. Whistle is dangerously low, but the threat of FaZe being around there pushes them away.
Man, oh man, oh man, JSK Esports. And with this Baron, like we've been mentioning, that Baron was a game changer in a sense, but I wouldn't say it wasn't as much of a game changer because JSK Esports already has that lead working for them.
Look at how much Whistle tanks.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, this is the beauty of the Galio here. And technically, earlier on, he was already tanking a lot of damage as is. Yeah. So this gives up so much of a good setup for JSK Esports to just kind of get into these fights. I'm absolutely odd right now. Again, this Galio is really working for them. And the fact that Whistle used that Galio to kind of not only to distract, but make sure to get members of JSK Esports in time to secure those kills. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah, I love the itemization coming from Whistle. Of course, this is pretty standard, but this entire just these 3 items actually locks away a lot of infused damage. Blocks away constant volleys, shock blasts, and flame spitters and shock lances come from Pandars, and he reduces the attack speed. Oh, here might be a fight here, but Spear still very, very tanky. The hero's entrance actually helps him out with a damage reduction. This might be the final fight of the game. If Infuse gets A's, it's gonna be Spear taking a lot of damage. A-Style as well gets taken down by Envy, but the rest of it, JSK is still going strong. Fade actually goes for the damage, double kill onto Spear. Now it's gonna be these 2 frontliners trying to take out Pandar. Spear teasing him right now. Blaze gobbles him up. It's gonna be XCXP now under attack, but he's still very tanky. But this is still a 1 for 3. All of the damage dealers of Infuse have been taken down. They have a huge Baron wave coming up right now. Whistle being able to frontline attack these turrets means that they might be able to finish off the game from this.
Oh man, JSK Esports really showing up in this game. Clearly do not want to go home 0-2. And looks like they will try to go for this finish. XCXP and
They can go for the finish. Liar still only 10 seconds away, but the Damascene Standard giving him a lot of attack speed. XCXP trying to go for something here. Gobbles up. Seems like they won't finish the game just yet. But they are leaving this with a huge gold lead and a lot of pressure there in the top lane.
Oh man, good. Again, this is interesting because I feel like if you're going to look at the previous game, that one overstay from JSK cost them the game. So I like the fact that they're showing restraint. Again, I keep on preaching how restraint. I keep on saying restraint for JSK Esports, but I gotta give kudos to them for that because, like I mentioned, this is something that you don't normally see from this team that really goes for these all-out plays, overcommits at times, which has resulted to, I'd say, kind of a nail in the coffin for them during the game 1.
Yeah, so now they're very, very clean on this composition that requires a lot of coordination and communication. And they're winning this game with a 10k gold lead. Spear still going in. Needs to back off from the damage of that Blade of the Ruined King, but this is a huge Baron wave. Blaze is going in onto Sachi just to scare them away with his frontline threat. And look at how fast they take down this inhibitor. It just explodes. Here comes Envy coming from the flank. Whistle tries to go for the two-man taunt, actually succeeds, but there is no follow-up just yet. Hero's entrance onto Envy. Actually, Liar, and he gets taken down. Sachi and the rest of Infuse have the defense so far. Look at Fate's damage, just being able to take out Envy. And the rest of JSK is just cleaning up house here. The Nexus will be destroyed very, very soon because there's no one to just damage JSK and kill them at this point. Nexus at half health. I think this is going to be a 1-1 in favor of JSK for this game.
Wow, congratulations, JSK Esports. Very impressive indeed. So I gotta hand it to them.
Yes.
They finally showed up. I was kind of worried that the same trend would happen from game 1, but they clearly went for that 360, change of mentality, change of mindset.
No, 360 would be going back to the same thing.
180.
That's a 180.
There we go. Yeah, like, wait a minute.
Whoops. Geometry is hard, guys.
Yeah, I hate math.
But of course, coming from that game, it seems like the rotations come from JSK were a lot more clean. Fade was able to do his thing where just completely survive in this lane and then dominate late game with his survivability and his damage. I really love the rotations as well. Their shot calling, their macro was on point against Infuse at that game. It's completely different from last game. A-Style wasn't mispositioning. The rest of the team was able to follow up on their engages. They just got objectives left and right. And wow, I really have a lot of respect from JSK right now.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, this does kind of put them back on equal playing field. Still dangerous, I'd say, for them, because there's still room for Asian Arena as well to climb that ladder, especially if they go for that 2-0 potentially. So
they do have a game later against AEX. This might be one of the chances for Asian Arena to get more points, but still, on to this matchup. It's going to be interesting to see how the players think, their thought process on the entire thing. But of course, before we go onto a short break and for the second match of the game, we'll be having an interview with one of the players of JSK, JSK Fade. Take it away, Vulcan.
So hello guys, I'm with the pro player here, Fade of JSK, the mid laner, who in game 2 really outstanding performance, Fade, by the way. But I have a question for you. What happened in game 1? You guys had a tremendous early game advantage.
Siguro kaya kami natalo nun kasi dami naming maling positioning, maling shot call, tas overcommit, yung mga ganun.
The smallest mistakes. So when you went to game 2, I think I saw a different JSK. What did you guys do? What did you change that made you win this second game?
Pag yung second game talaga, alam namin mananalo kami kasi unang-una, pag nananalo, lahat kasi na panalo namin, puro may CC. Doon kami nananalo. Doon lumalabas yung teamwork namin pag nagkakasundo kami, lalo na pag maraming CC.
I heard in an interview that you guys needed some one direction, one shot caller. So in game 1, you guys lacked that in some aspect?
Yun sa game 1 talagang ang dami, ang ingay. Ang sumasabog kami, hindi kami magkasundo.
So how positive are you and to our viewers out there of JSK entering the playoffs?
Ito, siguro may chance pa kami. Lalo na pag nakuha namin yung alam naming fix na mananalo kami.
Is it your dream to play in the Rampage stage?
Siyempre dream namin yun. So, lalo na ako. Personal dream ko yun. Matagal na. Gusto ko maglaro sa Rampage.
What can you say to our viewers out there with your performance in game 2? Really outstanding. Like any piece of advice, or what can you tell the other teams to expect?
Siguro sa di pa namin nakakalaro, expect na hindi namin kayo bibigyan ng easy game.
So guys, there you have it. The interview between the mid laner of Fade of JSK Esports, who secured their victory with a 1-1 against Infused. Thank you for the transition, Atlas. But guys, stay tuned for match 2. We will have a short break.
It falls here. Oh, he's stunned. He cannot go for the steal. Now it's going to be a teleport coming from Pandars as well as Whistle. Going for the hero's entrance, going for the front line of his team. But I think Infuse is just going to go for the disengage. Spear has a Cataclysm. That's going to be Whistle in the middle of everyone. Can he go for the 3-man taunt? Cataclysm goes in as well. Envy tries to go for the dive. This is in between two turrets. It seems like Infuse is taking a lot of damage, but so is JSK. Seems like it will be a 2 for 2 in the end. But with the turret almost being taken down, JSK has to back off. I think there was Infuse really in a position to do so. But Spear trying to go for something, but he's alone. But that might be the setup for everything. That is the equalizer going down onto the floor. Whistle is going to frontline for his team. He does have the flash, goes for the 2-man taunt, takes down Sachi. Pandars is now the target. Gonna have the Zonya's Hourglass, but Spear just easily takes him out along with A-Style. So that is going to be a 0 for 2, but Infantry going for 2. Damage is tanking right now, barely even enough. Good Gargoyle's Stone Flame as well. Equalizer gets down. Kane tries to go for more damage, actually takes down Sachi, and now Infuse is split apart. Now NV and XDXP are the ones that are being targeted. They have to run away. This might be the Baron given to JSK, but this is going for it. Look at Whistle just tanking so much damage, dodges a little bit as well with a hero's entrance. Now it's going to be Spear. Just as much actually goes in just for the insurance. This is just going to be the Abyssal Void. She's completely the final fight of the game. If Infuse gets A's, it's going to be Spear taking a lot of damage. A-Style as well gets taken down by Envy, but the rest of the Gen Z is still going strong. Fade actually goes for the damage. Double kill onto Spear. Now it's going to be these two frontliners trying to take up Pandar. Spear teasing him right now. Waves gobbles him up. It's going to be XDXP now under attack, but he's still very tanky. But this is still a 1 for 3. All of the damage dealers of the Infuse have been taken down. They have a huge Baron wave coming up right now. Whistle being able to frontline and attack these turrets. This means that they might be able to finish off the game from this. two-man on actually succeeds, but there is no follow-up just yet. Heroes Androids onto Indu. Actually, Liar, he gets taken down. Sachi and the rest of Infused have to defend so far. Look at Fate's damage, just being able to take out Indu. The rest of Jinxie just cleaning up house here. The Nexus will be destroyed very, very soon because there's no one to just damage Jinxie and kill them at this point. Nexus and half elf. I think this is going to be a 1-1 in favor of Jinxie for the team.